Win total Tuesday in Donnie's neck of the woods. It's a focus on the NFC East, a division that has been very difficult to handicap for the last 2 decades, or maybe not so difficult because of a long-standing trend in this division around the National Football League. DRS, here are the 4 teams, of course, in the NFC East. The Eagles have the highest win total. It's been on the rise throughout the offseason at 10.5. The Cowboys have dipped a little bit, 9 and a hook the number for the boys. The Commanders at 6.5, alongside the New York Giants at 6 and a hook as well. The Giants, the longest price of the 4 teams in this division to win a divisional crown. When this market opened up, Dallas was the favorite to win the NFC East. Philadelphia making some shrewd moves throughout this offseason. The additions of Saquon Barkley, adding back to their coordinating staff. Kellen Moore on the offensive side. Vic Fangio, the DC now in the city of brotherly love under Nick Sirianni. Those odds have flipped. The Birds an odds-on favorite to win the NFC East for a second time in 3 years. And that is the long-standing trend in the NFC East where we begin. Since 2004, nearly 2 decades of NFL action, we have not seen a repeat back-to-back divisional title winner in the NFC East in that entire nearly 20-year span. The Eagles won the division in 2022. The Cowboys won the division in 2023, a season ago, which would make it seem like a safe bet to bet Philadelphia to win the NFC East.
Let's let the shots, start to fire right now as you take a look at the NFC East. Well, the Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, they're in the East. Washington Commanders, yeah, they're in the East too. You take a look at the Giants, they're in the East. Oh, yeah, Dallas, when were they ever in the East? They should be banished out of this actual division. But again, I'm not going to let my Philadelphia Eagles fandom here take over this conversation. But I do believe the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team here. The one thing we do know is Dallas is still talented. As we take a look at the upper echelon 2 teams here in the NFC East. The Eagles, for me, and also you have to take a look at this. Where did it go wrong last year? They crashed down the stretch in embarrassing effort all the way through. But I think we were probably looking at the previous year before when the Eagles went to the World Championship game and played the Kansas City Chiefs and lost. You take a look at that game from the Super Bowl and say, all right, you're going to lose your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator late. They went with picks that didn't work out at all, and the defense looked like they played with their heads cut off for the final 6 games, and quite frankly, the same thing with the offense. You go out and get veteran presences in the room, Kellen Moore for the offensive side, Vic Fangio for the defensive side. I think that's going to help. You also took care of your players. The year before, you got Jalen Hurts signed up here. You got A.J. Brown. You got Devontae Smith. Everybody is happy in the room. The one disgruntled guy got shipped off as your defensive end, Hassan Reddick, out to the New York Jets. He's gone and still holding out, racking up millions of dollars in fines. The reason I bring this is it looks like you're heading into the season in the right direction. You had Saquon Barkley. That offense should be potent here. The vibes are good. Jalen Hurts is having a great training camp. Flip it over to the Dallas Cowboys. And I can't say this enough. We're going all in, which meant typically like, oh, my goodness. I can't wait to see, Ben, what the Dallas Cowboys do this offseason. All it means, like, we're going to re-up CeeDee Lamb. We're going to add another dominant wide receiver. We're going to hit that free agent market to get it. But maybe even Saquon Barkley goes to the Dallas Cowboys because you lost Pollard here. We're also going to take care of Dak Prescott to lower his cap number so we can load that defense up and get ready for it. You also have to keep in mind, as I just said, the Eagles changing coordinators probably for the better this year. Dan Quinn was one of the best defensive coordinators in the National Football League, no longer with the Dallas Cowboys now. You also take a look at your head coach. When you stand in front of a room and a head coach has a long-term deal, that image that he has up there and also his words are going to penetrate you by saying, I probably will be here longer than you. How about Mike McCarthy? Lame duck coach could be fired midseason if things don't go the right direction. If we're just looking at what happened in the offseason and the vibes heading into the season, it's all been terrible for the Cowboys and all positive for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's a great point. The vibe's one thing. The investment behind it, though, is another. Philly has paid everybody. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson. Everybody is happy. Saquon Barkley added to an already potent offensive scheme where Jalen Hurts will learn under Kellen Moore. Vic Fangio, I think, is the best defensive mind in the sport of football at the National Football League level. It did not work out in Miami. He's a South Jersey guy around the Philly area, closer to home. I think it's a great move. And Nick Sirianni takes his knocks because he's that CEO style of head coach, not intimately involved in the game planning or the schematics, has to trust the guys in doing so. I think the Eagles have gotten so much better this offseason at the coordinator positions once again. When Matt Patricia is your DC for any notable amount of time last year, things not good for the Birds. And Donnie, Philly was 10-1 through week 12, stumbling down the stretch, of course. They dropped 5 of their final 6 games to allow the Cowboys to win the division. We'll talk about Dallas's win total here in just a moment. But in the last 2 years, even with that disaster ending to a season ago, the Birds still over 10.5, and the over does have the juice at -144. We mentioned it earlier. The Eagles had the best record in the National Football League in 2022, 14-3. I think Philly is correctly booked to win the NFC East. I've bet them. I think Philly has the correct win total at 10.5. I think it's still worth a bet. 11 wins certainly seems in play at bare minimum. I think the Eagles are worth a bet at +550, tied for the second best number to win an NFC championship alongside Detroit, only behind San Francisco. I'm incredibly optimistic about this Eagles team entering this season. I think the odds have reflected the investment that this offseason has seen for Philadelphia. I believe in the Birds entering 2024.
Yeah, and also coming out of training camp right now, Jalen Hurts looks effective. Now, I understand, like, hey, coming in the best shape of my life. You get that he was banged up a little bit by that knee injury. If he's healthy and back to the way he played during that 2022 season, that's going to help. And also, you're looking at wide receivers. A.J. Brown, we know, is in his prime, but Devontae Smith is scraping, the top of that ceiling of what he can technically be. It's going to be up to see who's going to be that third wide receiver. It's going to be Paris Campbell out of the slot. Or how about this? The young Mr. 6'6", 6'7" Wilson out of Florida State has been shining in that Eagles training camp, so some fun to look forward to there. But I do look at this way for the Cowboys. They still are extremely talented. Dak Prescott is a very good regular season quarterback. Sure. CeeDee Lamb, if he shows up again, I do believe CeeDee Lamb is going to get that long-term deal. He's hell on wheels out there. So if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, it would be stunning if they won less than 9 games this year, which means at the end of the season, they're going to be right there neck and neck with the Philadelphia Eagles, as they should be.
Sure.
But if we're just looking at overall ability of teams here and looking towards the future, I think the Eagles get that nod.
We talk about them boys, a Dallas discussion next. At some point this summer, throughout the offseason, into training camp, and ahead of the 2024 NFL regular season, every sports talk show you will see or hear in the world will have this discussion. What are the Dallas Cowboys going to do in 2024? 9.5 is the win total for Dallas. The over has the juice. That would make sense. The Cowboys have won 12 games, a 12-5 record each of the past 3 regular seasons. 2 NFC East titles in 2021 and in 2023. Again, we flip-flop. We have not seen a repeat divisional champion in the NFC East since 2004. Donnie, the Cowboys conversation starts with a win total, but really it goes to that next price, an 8-1 number to win the NFC Championship, because there is no doubt, despite a shaky offseason right now for Dallas, lack of investment in a Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb or the head coach in Mike McCarthy, and uncertain times at the Star, they're still going to be good in the regular season. I don't think you or I are predicting they will finish with a losing record or perhaps even less than double-digit wins. But the Cowboys season, and a successful one, is judged by one thing. Did they play for a Super Bowl? And since 1995, the answer has resoundingly been no. Does that change this year in Dallas?
No, it doesn't change this year in Dallas. And it's not just because we're going to bet on a trend that says, and I always like to joke about it, like, I don't care how talented the Cowboys are. It's the Cowboys. They never win in the playoffs or can advance anywhere, so you just can't take them. We understand, being handicappers, this is a year-to-year thing. We have to throw those recency biases out the window, even if they aren't so recent, and go back all the way to the mid-1990s. But if you look at the team in itself, the core of it is you're only going to go as far as your quarterback takes you. And in the regular season, if you have an above-average quarterback, which Dak Prescott is, you're going to win football games games just by default. And it's not like they're devoid of talent. Now, granted, they did expect Tony Pollard to be there long-term. That injury sort of slowed him down a bit, hits the free agent trail, heads out and plays for the Titans now. You still have Cooks, you still have Lamb. If he shows up to camp, and I believe he will, there's no way Dallas is heading into this regular season with CeeDee Lamb not taken care of and in camp. So the semblance of a good offense is still there. The defense, they got two headhunters on the outside. Like, how do you win in the football league? Give me two good cornerbacks, Diggs and Bland. Give me two amazing pass rushers, Lawrence and Parsons. That's the basis of a great defense and also having a quarterback that can win games. So when I see that number at 9.5, sure, you want to be a Dallas hater and say, look, they had a terrible offseason, but they still have the semblance of a very good team in the regular season. Do I think they can win the NFC? No, I don't. Do I think they're going to win the NFC East? No, I don't think that. But that doesn't mean they can't approach 10 wins on the season and still, as you said, be above 500. It would be shocking. And again, outside of devastating injuries, let's just say to Dak Prescott, we are expecting them in the final couple weeks of the season to still be in the mix for the NFC East and a playoff spot, which means there is a chance if you get into the tournament that you can make a deep run and make it to the NFC Championship. I just think, again, and I can't overstate this enough, it's very odd for the Dallas Cowboys. More money under the sun, can just stroke a couple checks here, get themselves $30 to $40 million under the cap, get more players in town. That's typically what they do. I was just astounded that they took this game plan. Also, like, what happens now if you do sign CeeDee Lamb? Which he was making a decent amount in the final year of his rookie deal, or in that rookie deal where he can get extended, you probably would lower his cap number. But the biggest one is, like, let's just say they do come to an agreement with Dak Prescott over the next 2 weeks. The point was, do that back in February, where you can now slot some of that money that you saved on the cap for other players to bring in. It was just a complete shamble off season, which is why a lot of people aren't high right now on the Dallas Cowboys to start with, Ben.
The vibes are sour, and it's been reflected in the odds. Again, Dallas opened in the market in the NFC East with a disastrous end of the year for Philadelphia, and the Cowboys winning the division as the favorites to win this division with a double-digit win total. And they're still favored to get to double digits. 9.5, again, the number. The over has the juice, nearly $1.50 on the over of 9 and a hook. And, Donnie, I wouldn't take your money. I wouldn't take Friezo's money. I wouldn't take Kevin's money. I wouldn't bet it on the Cowboys to do anything worth of note in the postseason. I would never bet on Dallas to win the NFC Championship or a Super Bowl, at least not until I see it. Would I bet on the Cowboys to be a double-digit win team? Sure. Would I bet on the Cowboys to contend for the NFC East? Absolutely. Philly's not going to win this division with a 9-8 record because everybody else stinks. Dallas is going to be at least a 10-win football team, if not better. But the Cowboys last won a Lombardi Trophy, which is the standard of excellence at the Star in 1995. In the nearly 30 years since, Dallas has made 13 playoff appearances. And in all 13 postseason trips, the Cowboys have not advanced past the divisional round or even played in an NFC championship. So why would I bet them to win a conference title? I won't. And that's the Dallas story until something changes there in the Lone Star State. Win Total Tuesday continues when Hour 3 gets here after the break. Welcome to Hour number 3, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. Win Total Tuesday continues around the NFC East. Two more teams to die through, the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants, both with a win total of 6.5, but maybe with differing expectations entering 2024. We will set you up for a huge Tuesday over in Paris. Quarterfinal action in the men's basketball tournament with the United States taking on Brazil in the fourth and final game of quarterfinal Tuesday over in Paris. More Olympic primers to set the stage for on this Tuesday as well. And baseball breakdowns come your way before the day is through. A full 15-game slate around MLB. All of that, DRS, here in this third and final hour.
Yes, good fun third and final hour here as we ramp it up because there is a very good Major League Baseball card today, but also more football talk. Who says no at this point? We take a look at those Washington Commanders here, and also, like, do you take a look at the Giants or do you laugh at the Giants? Like, you know how we try to be nice to every team. We're like, oh, let's take a look at their season. We're going to really take a look at the Giants season as well here, which, again, if you're a Giants backer, maybe you should take that Giants head off, throwing the Jets out this year. You know what I mean? Come on.
Whoa,
they do that in
we
the city,
can't
right?
just be
Nets,
tossing our
Knicks,
loyalty.
Yeah. Islanders, Rangers, Yankees, Mets. What do we do? Or even maybe just the Dallas Cowboys hat altogether in NYC, which you'll find.
Would you take off your Eagles hat and support the Steelers if the year was supposed to be poor for Philadelphia?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not the same, though. Like in a city, I feel like you can just hide in New York as you're a fan of every team and maybe even say, you know what, the Devils, yeah, maybe you rooted for them back in the day because of the proximity. It's a lot of ways you can go in New York. You know what I mean?
A lot of teams, I will agree, in the greater New York, New Jersey area, but still, we don't just dispatch our loyalties because the times get tough. You stay the course. We'll talk about the New York Giants in just a moment, but I do want to start with the Washington Commanders, who have a long price, of course, to win the NFC East and just a win total of 6.5. You see that 10-1 number on Washington to win the NFC East. It's the third of 4, but it's very, very far back from where Dallas is. 6.5 the win total, though. The over has a slight bit more juice at -115. Now, Washington, I think, maybe the most intriguing team in this division this year. Jaden Daniels, number 2 overall pick. Dan Quinn, new head coach in the nation's capital, with a new offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, has confirmed that Jaden Daniels will play for Washington on Saturday in MetLife against the New York Jets in the Commanders' preseason debut. There is optimism for this Commanders side with a changing of coaching staff and a changing of ownership. Just 4 wins a season ago. Donnie, what is your outlook as it pertains to the win total of 6.5 for the Commanders in 2024?
I'm a little bullish on it. I can't lie at this point. Like, I really like Jaden Daniels, but also let's understand the concept of the Washington Commanders. For 20 years, horrendous leadership, and it led from the owner all the way down. The general managers, the front office, the presidents, they're all getting blown out on a day-by-day basis. I remember when the Commanders changed ownership groups, I said the first thing they should do, I don't even care about it if it's the radio booth, the TV booth, whoever it is. If Dan Snyder hired you, remove them from the facility, give them their last paychecks, and start anew. And that seems like what they're doing. Now, also, I didn't agree with the hire here for Dan Quinn to be a head coach, but I understand the concept of what the Commanders are doing. Put a head coach in place that everybody is going to listen to here. If you have a young offensive upstart, I like the young offensive guru that you want to be as a head coach. But they did the next best thing. You went and got the defensive stalwart who you know is going to put out a very good product on defense, and the city's going to like him, the team's going to like him, they're going to listen. Go out and throw that jackknife in there and get Kingsbury. Because some people say, that guy's such a terrible head coach. He couldn't last in that offense. Trust me right now, when you're taking a look at Jaden Daniels, that is the perfect guy to be your quote-unquote head coach of the offense yourself. Dan Quinn's going to say, you know what? You have all the gimmicks you need on offense. I'm going to handle this defense. Show me what you got on game day. I think it works out. You go and get Austin Eckler. You already have Brian Robinson Jr., Chris Rodriguez Jr. on that roster. You're set at running back. At the wide receiver position, it was such a disaster. And here's why I think a lot of people aren't that high on Washington, because the ownership was terrible, which they were just trying to go through that process of, we're going to sell the team. Let me see what happens here. Eric Bieniemy was a disaster as the offensive coordinator. And it's now apparent where at the end of the season, your very best player, Terry McLaurin, was going, all I do is run cardio out here. You knew it was going to be a bad setup. Ron Rivera was a lame duck head coach. So now they're starting fresh. They have a lot of talent on that offensive side and also a defensive coordinator to get that team in line. I look at this by saying the one thing I know about the Commanders, I don't know if they're going to win the division. But you know about on a week-to-week basis, this is now a competent franchise. And that's a whole hell of a lot better than what you could say about this team over the past 4 to 5 years. The direction is solid. So if I'm looking at that team total and saying 6.5, why not 7 wins? Now, you might say also that, well, look, rookie quarterback, we don't know how that's going to be. I get that here. But the one thing I know about Jaden Daniels, if it's 3rd and 7, that pocket breaks down, he might run for 25 yards a clip here. I'm bullish on this team. I think they can get the 7 wins. I do.
Plus 310 for the Commanders to make the NFC postseason. I don't think Donnie or I are advocating that Washington even contends for an NFC wildcard spot. But 7-8 wins, I think that's in the cards this year. Donnie, I think there's a really strong argument to make that the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams in Chicago, and the number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels in Washington, find themselves in glorious situations to start their careers, which is not often the case for guys that were drafted that early in the NFL, because if you're drafted 1st or 2nd overall or in the top 5, it often means as a QB, you go to a team that's been losing, at least as of late. And the Bears and the Commanders have lost. Chicago, of course, drafting first because of the pick exchange with Carolina. But Washington was 4-13 a year ago. There wasn't optimism outside of the nation's capital. Now there is. You can have your bones about Cliff Kingsbury as a successful NFL head coach. I'd hear it. As an offensive mind, I think he's fantastic. I think with a young rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, he's in a great situation. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler alongside in the backfield, and maybe two very underrated wide receivers, Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, out there out wide. In his Heisman-winning campaign, Jaden Daniels became one of two FBS quarterbacks ever to throw for more than 4,000 yards and run for more than 1,000 in a single season, joining Deshaun Watson during his time at Clemson. The guy is going to be good. And I think there is an argument when you look at his 3,050.5-yard passing prop that he can go over that number this year. Again, bullish, I think, is an appropriate word on Washington. Not to be a 10-7 football team and into the postseason, but at least 7 wins over a win total of 6.5, and perhaps more competitive than we have seen the last few seasons. Now to the New York Giants. 6.5, also the win total, but the under has the heavy juice at minus 150. A very compelling team, DRS, because Daniel Jones is back as the quarterback for the second of his 4-year extension. But Joe Shane brokered the deal to make it very front-loaded so that if things did not work for the G-Men, they could maybe get rid of Daniel Jones following 2024. This is a team that, with Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll's rookie year as a head coach 2 seasons ago, made it to the postseason, upset Minnesota during Super Wild Card weekend. But last year, just a 6-11 football team. What does the 2024 season hold for the New York Giants?
I remember when Brian Daboll was going to be the head coach for the New York Giants, and I sort of like gave myself one of those little face palm myself like this, like, oh, that's not going to be good, because he was my favorite head coach on the market. So they finally got a guy that's going to be able to lead them. But little did I know that Brian Daboll would come in and say, hey, I think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. So Daboll goes from one of my favorite coaches to one of my least favorite coaches. They also had a general manager by the name of Dave Gettleman, who was an absolute straight up buffoon there. And I said, oh no, they're going to fire him. Anybody is going to be better. You watch some of these, behind the scenes hard knocks. I don't know if Dave Gettleman might have been the actual better general manager than Joe Shane at this point, which is insane, because also you start your franchise. Your franchise starts and ends with your quarterback. And let's go back to Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. We all knew that Daniel Jones was a horrendous quarterback. We all laughed that if Daniel Jones hit the free agent market, he would have ended up in the USFL, because nobody in the NFL wanted him here. They re-signed him to $40 million a year. Come on, Giants. That says it all.
A few more words on the Giants next. So Donnie made his strong points about the New York Giants entering 2024 and looked at Brian Daboll, the head coach, won Coach of the Year in his rookie campaign, leading the G-Men in 2022, and Joe Shane, who, of course, the two worked together in Buffalo when Shane was the assistant GM under Brandon Beane. But I think it's really fascinating, DRS, to look at the Giants in the scope of this year and beyond. 6.5 the win total. The under has the heavy juice. If the Giants stay under, 5-12 football team, 6-11 football team, do they get a pass to be being brought back next year, that being Brian Daboll as the head coach and Joe Shane as the GM, or are they dispatched? Because they weren't the guys to draft Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones, but they were the guys to get rid of Saquon Barkley and pay Daniel Jones. So DRS, let's say the odds makers are correct, and the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year for New York?
They shouldn't be, because it's just a catastrophic error. Like, sometimes there are errors that you make that everybody agrees with and you get a pass on. Like, let's just say you're the number 1 pick in the draft and it went to the Giants, and this whole regime was still the same. Same general manager, same coach. And in 3 years, Caleb Williams turned out to be a terrible quarterback. Nobody would go back and revisionist history and say, that's why I told you not to take Caleb. No, everybody wanted Caleb Williams. The fact that when they did draft Daniel Jones, and I don't even care if it was the same regime, you had a chance to come in and it's the perfect playbook. If I'm a coach and I'm a general manager and I get hired to a team, you know what I'd love to see? I get that one look-see season to say, you know what? No matter what happens, good or bad, they're not going to hold it against me here, and it can all be positive. They should have came together in agreement when Daniel Jones, again, I'm telling you right now, you could have got Daniel Jones for like a 1-year, $10 million contract. Not a single other team was ever vying to pay him any money whatsoever, and that should have told you. It's one of those opportunities where if Daniel Jones was a good quarterback, 10 other ball clubs would be calling you on a day-to-day basis, praying that you let him hit the free agent market because they wanted him. Nobody wanted Daniel Jones. That should have been the number one signal call, because they cut bait there and they're still finding a way to find your quarterback. The people will be honest with you and say, you know what? We just haven't found our guy. Let's just say in the draft they go out this year, trade up, and, even if it was Drake May, who's not been a great camp for New England, at least that will buy you some time. It's okay. Coach and general manager, I'm going to give him 2 to 3 years to grow with this new young quarterback. Nobody thinks Daniel Jones is going to succeed. And also, what is succeeding for Daniel Jones? He throws 16 touchdown passes in 17 games, and now he doesn't even have that big-time running back to hand the football off to. I'm not saying, look, good for Daniel Jones. He won it life. He actually stonewalled the Giants to giving him big-time money contract, then gets injured, and they still keep him here. I mean, he's the big winner in all of this year. He's going to float off into the sunset whether he throws another touchdown pass or not. But if you're looking just as a Giants franchise, you had the chance to take away Daniel Jones and find your identity. So what is the point of this season for the Giants? To find out once again Daniel Jones is not your future quarterback, and you wasted an entire season? And also, are you trying to win 6 or 7 games with Daniel Jones? Let's just say this year goes well for the Giants and it's 8 wins. Now you can't even draft your quarterback next year because you won 8 games. It doesn't make any sense what the Giants are doing. They should not be playing Daniel Jones one fraction. They should be blowing this team up and say, I can't wait to find Malik Neighbors, a true quarterback to play with in the future, and get my fan base fired up. This is as low as the Giants are at this point from a fan base, because you tell me, at least the Cowboys, hey, we're going to have a decent season. Washington has their quarterback of the future. They're excited. The Philadelphia Eagles hoping to return back to the Super Bowl. As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants at the beginning of the season.
I think a lot of times in sports, we look at wins and losses. That is the assessment of a season. I think it's beyond that for the New York Giants and what is deemed successful, achievable, and what it means for the future of this Giants franchise. I think Donnie with the steam brought it right there.